Hello, everybody. Welcome to Friday afternoon, our OFAR Friday, and welcome to our March webinar, Open Pedagogy in Practice. I'm James Glopper-Grossklag here with Liz Yada, and our dear colleague Una Daly is taking a well-deserved vacation. We are very happy for her to be disconnected and rejuvenating right now. So we're in, hopefully, I'm in good hands with Liz here, and hopefully you're in good hands with me. So welcome, everybody. And let's move on to the next slide. We've got a fun session for you today. In just a second, I'll ask you to give us a quick response to how's it going. But we'll also spend a minute or two on calendar reminders. And then we have some brave and creative colleagues from OFAR who are going to share some of the work that they're doing to engage students. You'll all recall that one of the sort of sub-themes for this year, in addition to all the other great work that you're doing and transformations that you're making in your teaching, one of the sub-themes is to think about how to engage students in co-creation in the classroom, but also how to engage students in the transformational work we hope will result from your participation in OFAR at your institutions. And then after our colleagues talk about Umoja and equitable grading, then we'll have a few minutes for a discussion around general ideas of student leadership. How can we engage students as leaders, not only in our classrooms, but also outside our classrooms? And then we'll just have a few more reminders after that. So real quick, we'd like to hear from you, maybe a few of you. How's it going? You're in the middle or at the start of the semester, or maybe the middle of the start of the semester. You've turned in your first written reflections in the Canvas course, and you've gotten feedback. And from the looks of those, things seem to be going okay. Anybody want to share a highlight or maybe a particular challenge that you're experiencing? Feel free to unmute or use the chat.
I'll go ahead and unmute myself. I just want to introduce myself. My name is Apolonia Preciado. I am the president of the Hartnell students here in the student body. And for me, a highlight or a positive one, I'm transferring this semester. And so I just finished applying for housing. So I'm really excited.
Oh, how wonderful. Tell us your name again.
My name is Apolonia.
Apollonia. How wonderful that you're here. Thank you, Apollonia. How great to have you here. Thank you. Anyone else want to talk about a highlight or a challenge this semester so far?
Sure, I will. My name's Trav Williams. I'm also at Hartnell College. And one thing I've done as far regarding this whole OFAR project was I developed a diversity, equity, and inclusion quiz that I've shared with my students, and the feedback I've gotten from them has been very positive. They report that they learned some things about other cultures that they weren't aware of. So that's something I've now incorporated into all of my classes, and seems to have been an effective approach.
Thank you, Trav. I appreciate that. And that also, I hear my friend Deborah Crumpton's voice in my ear reminding us that helping our students to appreciate diversity, equity, and inclusion in the world in which we live is dynamite. And a next step is being explicitly anti-racist. And so we want to be sure to go that next step and recall our focus on that, which you, of course, learned a lot about in the fall course in Module 2, in particular, thinking about anti-racist pedagogy. So thanks for what you're doing, Trav, and thanks for the reminder as well. Anyone else? Time for one more highlight or challenge this semester? Serafina, you raised your hand, please.
Hello. Thanks for giving me a chance to speak. Something that I'm implementing the the principles that we've been learning in my Psych 101 class, which is intro psych or general psych. And something I've been doing every week since we started is I've been presenting diverse psychologists, either in history or current psych, mostly current psychologists, because I think it's more relevant to students, but also in history as well. And instead of doing that last week, a couple weeks ago, I assigned them some homework to find a psychologist that they could relate to with respect to, it could have been gender, it could have been ethnicity, it could have been the area of study. And then when they came to class this past week, we're in week 7, or we just finished week 7, they got into small groups and they shared what they found with each other. And it was really interesting because they found psychologists that were so diverse, and they were really excited about sharing these with each other. And it was fun to see who they found and everything. So that was a highlight for me.
Awesome, Serafina. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's really powerful to help our students understand or discover that our disciplines have a history, and oftentimes, or probably always, unfortunately, our disciplines have a history of silencing particular voices, particularly voices of women and voices of people of color. So it's awesome that you can help your students discover that, and maybe even recover some of the voices and some of the perspectives that have been excluded. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, let's move on then. Thanks, everybody. Liz, if we can move to the next slide, please. So quick reminder of the calendar for the spring, and this is available to you in the Canvas course. There's also a QR code here for you to click on. Your spring reflections are due February 15th, so those are already in. Thanks, everybody. April 1st and May 30th. Just those quick little prompts. We want to know what's going on. We want to keep you reflecting. If you're not able to participate in one of the webinars, by now, hopefully you know that there's a page that's linked here that takes you to a page where the archives are posted, where Liz posts the archives, so you can watch the archives and fill out a quickie little questionnaire there. Thank you, Liz, for dropping that in the chat. You continue to meet with your coaches and teams, and then in April and May, the research activities are going to start. A reminder here, they consist of the following. We'll ask you to distribute a link to a survey to your students. So we're going to survey your students. We're going to ask you to distribute a link to a survey to your sponsoring administrator. So you'll get that link to move along to your sponsoring administrator. We're going to ask one person from each team to volunteer to sit for an interview, so that we're getting not only quantitative data, but also qualitative data, a 1-hour interview with our researchers, and that's all confidential. We have no idea who's saying what to the interviewers. So we really, really, really want sincere feedback on the program. And then finally, in May, there will be a post survey to ask you about, things that may have changed over the year. So lots of that coming up in April and May. Next slide, please. And then in June, we have the team showcases, sort of the grand finale for us. For you, the grand finale is taking place in class with your students naturally, but we want to know what the takeaways are for you and what your experience was like, and not only for us, but every other team is probably wondering what are the other colleges doing, and what are the experiences of my colleagues at other colleges. So the June showcases are team activities. I want to stress that they're team activities. So you see the prompts here on the screen. Please address those prompts as a team. You'll also be providing us with an individual reflection at the end, written reflection at the end individually, but this is a team activity. You're very welcome to pre-record a session if you want to pre-record, 7, 8, 9 minutes, and we'll play that during the live session. That's fine. And then finally, please invite your sponsoring administrator. That is a really powerful session there when we all get to see what fabulous things have been happening at all the institutions to introduce anti-racism into teaching, and we hope a little bit into the institution as well. All right, next slide, please. Here is a reminder of our webinars coming up. Next month, we have, I think it'll be a dynamite webinar on anti-racist educational practices and policies. We've got 3 deep thinkers and high-level policymakers lined up to speak to us about their views. But we're also going to ask them questions, so it will not be talking heads. We'll ask our participants, our guests, to share a little bit about their work, but then we're going to ask some questions of them. So we hope it'll be a little bit interactive as well. And then in May, we're going to have sort of a technical hands-on session talking about or sharing with you how to upload your syllabus and an assignment or an artifact from your class into OER Commons, so that in the spirit of OER, others will benefit from the work that you've done this year as well. So May 5th will be kind of a hands-on technical session. Any questions about the calendar? Let's see. Alan asks, the calendar is not, oh gee, Alan. Yes, the calendar is currently on the screen. I'm not sure, Alan, are you able to see the screen now, Alan? We're on a slide that says Spring 2023 calendar. Okay, thank you. Alan is letting me know in the chat that for some reason his Zoom view got stuck a couple of slides back, so he's going to log out and log back in. Thank you, Alan, and thanks, Jamie, for confirming that you see the calendar dates. Okay, with that, let's move along, Liz. And we're going to turn it over to Stephanie from Los Angeles Southwest College, who's going to talk about the Umoja program. As some of you may be familiar with the Umoja program, some of you are not. We do not have an Umoja program at College of the Canyons. I only know it by attending conferences and learning about it at conferences. So Stephanie and perhaps Susan are going to talk about one particular aspect of the Umoja program. And I'm really excited to learn more about the porch talks. So we'll turn it over to Stephanie.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Everyone. Hello. Thank you, James. I'm going to share my screen. I included a link because I did a infographic, and I know sometimes they're a little small, so I wanted to make sure that everybody can kind of see the text. But I will share my screen so we can get started. And
Great. We are seeing your screen now with the infographic on Porch Talks.
you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Stephanie.
Oh, okay, awesome, great, okay. So I have been a part of the Umoja community for, wow, I think going on 5 years now. And one of the things that I wanted to share, like James has said, like every college does not have an Umoja program. So if, this is something that sparks your interest, I encourage everyone to maybe rally and try to get an Umoja program on your campus. This is something that has been near and dear to me. And one of the practices that I'm going to talk about today, the Porch Talk, is something while rooted and definitely derived from the Umoja program. It is something that can be used and something that you possibly already do in your classroom. as a way to kind of engage with students. And so I just encourage everyone to look more into the Umoja program. We'll put the link into the chat so you guys can see more of what the principles and some of the foundational things that Umoja promotes. But one of the concepts that is important for us to understand is that this is something that brings students together, and it also brings you, and it also makes an effort for you to include yourself in the classroom. Students come and they are going to be there, but you also have to be there. You have to be intentional. You have to be present. And they really, really get a lot out of this experience. So without no more prefacing, I do want to start by just explaining what the porch talk is. And I have a little, a lot of these, there are some links in here and they are interactive and you should have access to them when you click on them. But this is taken directly from the Umoja practices. And I'll read this briefly, quickly. It says the porch, to say at all times what is really going on here. Our learning environment should be open, respectful, playful. There should be argument, dissection, and revision. It should be personal, political, and philosophical. The porch can often be candid and sometimes even painful. Storytelling is privilege and sometimes song breaks out. Porch talk invites humor, noise, sometimes unruliness. A classroom with such honesty and visibility can produce frustration and also acceptance. Needless to say, trust is at the foundation of a porch talk learning environment, and trust has to be earned, modeled, practiced, openly reflected upon, and revisited. Porch talk is intentional. For example, the instructor looks for an opportunity to draw out, celebrate, and dignify the quieter students. So all the voices in the room make up the porch. The porch is a place where our students safely communicate and advocate for themselves. And so in this description, in this discussion, I think it just kind of segues us into why we do this work. I teach English. In English, there's a lot of discussion in English, and I know that some other disciplines may rely heavily on the lecture and maybe just instruction, especially maybe with some of the sciences and maths and labs, et cetera. But, this goes beyond that, carving out time to be organic and to create a happening, if you might say, in the class. So why do we do this? Why do we open up the space to engage with students this way? And I have a few points. The first one is to strengthen our students' presence. Every classroom is dynamic and it's different. And so I say this to also say that when you open up, and we'll get into this when we talk about how to kind of do the practice, but you cannot expect for every class to go the same way. You want uniqueness. You want the student body to be diverse. You want their voices to be diverse. And so to expect that you're going to get the same results from each porch talk or each class community, it's not necessarily realistic. But what you will see is that this practice does strengthen the students' voices. They are allowed to speak. They are engaged, and the topics might not be in aligned with your discipline. But the goal is to get them talking and to get them sharing. It also increases awareness. When we think about what our students sometimes bring and they might not be aware of, the richness in their backgrounds and their stories, their current environments, letting them be aware and letting them feel like this is a safe space is also important. It also supports the collective. I tell my students on day one, this is a community, this is a classroom community. Everyone in here has a voice. Everyone's voice should be respected. And students hear that, but it's not really until the middle of the class, the middle of the semester, that I really see the support that comes out of the collective voice. So now your class has one voice. They speak in a way in which they support each other and they want the dynamics to be specific to them. And I think that that's really important. It also establishes a ritual, something for students to look forward to. The more you can, of course, you want the porch talks to be organic, but the more you can set set your students' expectations that they're going to be able to speak is what's important. So the ritual is there to acknowledge that we will be doing this, that this is not something that we're going to start doing. There's going to be consistency. You can look to this space to always be here. It also promotes growth. I mean, I think that one of the tenets that's brought up in the description is that students, some of the quieter students, may not readily show themselves in the beginning of the semester. And you might not get everyone, and that's okay. But what you will see is that something grows within each student with this practice, something that's tangible or something that they take away. They might not share it with you, they might share it with others. But in the reflections, and we'll talk about that too, you'll see that students might not verbally share, but they might write it down. And so just to have access to their thoughts on paper is also rewarding for them. And then also it builds reflection. A part of this is to reflect on the experience. Students are engaged not only verbally, but they communicate. For me, with my, like I said, for my discipline, sometimes we do vision boards, so there's visual things. We do a lot of group work, so there's a lot of ways for us to incorporate the porch talk there. And so, yeah, it embodies this idea of like revision and reflection and encourages that. Any questions? I know we can probably have questions later, but if you have questions, maybe I'll just keep going, and then at the end, I'll give some time for questions, but I'm going to keep going because I know I only have a short amount of time. So how do we cultivate a porch in person? So, COVID really kind of threw a wrench in how we communicate to our students, and this kind of open dialogue that was really, really brilliant in the classroom when we were in classes and we were face to face. And so I've been lucky enough to come back to class and have two of my classes, and of course the ones that I'm using for the OFAR experience are going to incorporate, or we are incorporating, the porch talk. And so it's just been great to see students' reactions. When we're talking on Zoom, it's really hard to get their faces and see, it's really hard sometimes for them to engage. And so in person is where we're going to focus on, but then there's also some room, of course, for online. How do we do this for our online experience? Bringing this full circle, day one, I start with an icebreaker. I have students get up, introduce themselves to each other. I make students kind of go from, I split the class in two and I make them engage and introduce themselves to each other. We spend the first day of class getting to know each other. I go over the syllabus, but the bulk of the class is them getting to know each other. And what's rewarding with that is that you are not doing a lot of the work. They're doing that. You're not kind of pushing them. They're kind of introducing themselves to each other. So it is very much organic. And if it's just one student that gets to know each other's names, that's great. That's day one. And they're not just sitting there listening to you go over the syllabus, but they're actually engaging with each other on the first day. And that's, that sets the foundation for what comes later. I do ask students to bring an artifact, and I'm going to click on this. I included my artifact, and I start with my own. So on day one, I show them my artifact. And an artifact is a piece that represents you. I have the benefit, of having this picture of my ancestors, and I show them, I take it around. Of course, I have different copies or whatever, and I let them look at it because it means a lot to me. This picture was taken in 1926, and this is not the oldest picture I have of my great-grandparents, but it is a very old picture. And what it represents is, these are the people who kind of laid the foundation for me standing in front of the students. And I say, this is my artifact. This is my piece that represents me. These are my great-grandparents. This is my grandfather that's in this picture and his siblings. My great-grandmother was, she washed clothes. She was a housekeeper. My great-grandfather was, worked on the railroad sometimes, ins and outs here and there. But I am my ancestors' dream, right? Their goal was to have children and to build on the love that they shared with each other, but then to see that I'm first generation college student, those are the things that I think of and I look to when I see who I am. And so I ask students to think about it. I give them time. And I say, when we come back, not the same, like if you have a 2-day class, you know, if you come and meet on Mondays and Wednesdays, I give them the week to kind of think of their artifact. And I ask them to bring it in. And we spend time throughout the semester. Everyone brings in an artifact. So we're not just kind of doing it one time when we come back from class. But each person gets to present and they get to share. And you see that some people, you know, sometimes people want to bring in more than one, and I think that that's great too. But I get a range. I get pictures, students who have shown their AA tokens. I've had students who have brought in reminders of, you know, parents and children, children's toys, anything that represents them. And so with that artifact experience, each student gets to learn even more about their classmates. And it's it's voluntary. Every student doesn't, if they don't want to engage, that's fine. But I tend to see that even in the beginning, if they don't want to engage, by the time the end of the semester happens, you know, there's always a student that says, come on, you know, show what you have or bring something in. And that's what we want. We want that collective spirit. And so that's the artifact. And then the next thing is to create assignments that are engaging with the community. There's a link here, but there's an assignment that I make my students do where they get to explore their community. They get to write about the things that they see. I call it a derive. It's derived from this French kind of walking experiment. And it combines that with the happening where you're walking and you get to just let things kind of come to you. And so students walk around their communities, sometimes they walk around the campus, depending on where they get to choose the area that they want to explore. And so with that experience and with that writing assignment, they come back in and they share their community. So now we have another opportunity for them to see and engage with others in the classroom. So it's not just one monolithic experience. And like I said, all of these are clickable, so you can click to these assignments later. Number 4, check-ins. And so one of the big components of the porch talk is to check in with the students. So while these are some assignments and things that you ask students to kind of bring in, the check-in is very important. How are you doing today? What's going on? How was the weekend? Does anybody want to share? Sometimes you get students who come in and, you know, the energy is probably not there. And, you know, sometimes if the energy is not there, you have to stop and say, hey, what's going on? Anybody, you know, anything anybody wants to share? Remember, this is about trust. If you're not engaged, they will not feel comfortable engaging with you. Okay, so thinking about this is just, you have to embody this practice. You have to share. You have to come from behind the chalkboard or the whiteboard or whatever you have in your classroom, the computer, the presentation. You have to come from behind that desk. You have to walk around. You have to engage with students, sit down with them. Like I said, I do a writing course. So a lot of their writing time, you know, I'm going around sitting down and talking with them individually. And that happens because of the course, but even still, you still have to, if that is not part of your curriculum, you still have to engage. And so checking in, asking them questions, how are they, you know, stopping the assignment sometimes and engaging with them is, you know, priceless. Okay. Number 5, assignment reflections. You know, for each assignment, I ask students to tell me what did they think. Sometimes students don't like my assignments, and that's fine, right? But I want them to tell me that. I like to hear what they didn't like, what they thought they could have learned more from, to explain to me what they liked, the readings they liked, you know, the things that they're still struggling with. We do that in an open form, and I also ask them to write that as part of their essays. When they turn in their essays, they also have to include a reflection to let me know what about the assignment that they engage with the most, what are some things that they think I need to go over again, etc. And then finally, this is not the end. So the last day of dialogue, the door is always open in my classroom, my office hours, of course. But what I see, and I always do at the end of the year with finals, I bring in refreshments, students bring in things that they want. It's up to your campus. Our campus is very flexible with, like, it's not necessarily a party, but it's a going, it's a going home type of thing. And students really like to share. And we do the last day, we do a day of dialogue where we share. We go back to that first day. I ask students, do they remember who they met the first day? Do they remember, share some other experiences that they have? And so we do this as a collective on the last day of class, and that's our final porch talk. And so that's very key. And then finally, cultivating this online. How does this look? What does this look like online? I kept this kind of brief because I wanted, everyone's Canvas shell is theirs to kind of create. But online discussions, Zoom porch talks. So not using your Zoom particularly to go over assignments, but to say, hey, this particular Zoom on this day will be a porch talk. Anybody can come in, check in. This will be like an open office hour, maybe, if you will, where students can come in. And this might not be during, your regular office hours. It might be, sometimes I make the porch talk available for evening hours for my online students, because a lot of times they take classes online because they work during the day. So the porch talk is there. Assignment reflections, that's something that's easily uploaded to Canvas. And then online partners. I do this a lot, even with my in-class. I assign students a buddy. So a lot of times they do this organically, but sometimes I have to kind of push, and that's what this the intentionality means, about pushing some topics and making sure and pushing some relationships. So sometimes I assign students partners. And so they have a buddy, someone they can check in with, they can communicate with. And this partner is theirs for the entire semester. So they're building these relationships throughout. Yeah, I know I only had a certain amount of time. I can't really see anyone yet. I'm still presenting, but does anybody have questions? I'll put the Emoja link. And Susan, I know you're on the call. I don't know if you want to add anything additional about your experiences with Porch Talks, but I'm open. And thank you for your time and your space.
Thank you, Stephanie, very much. Susan, if you want to add a word or two, that'd be awesome. But we do have another presentation, so I do want to be mindful of time. Susan, any sentence or two you'd like to add?
Yeah, well, I put everything about the coordinator and whatnot of the Umoja program in the chat earlier. What I would add is that it is this place where we can be unapologetically, unashamedly Black. Blackity black, black, black. That whole concept of porch talk comes from the culture, especially, the culture down south where you actually have a porch and, you sit around and you talk trash, you tell lies, you testify, you test a lie, and you just enjoy your Blackness. I was a presenter at one. I have no idea what I talked about, but it is really, really, really an open forum, no holds back. And it's a great place to be Black.
Fantastic. Thank you, Susan. I really appreciate that, and that exclamation point on it. And that probably, or almost certainly, explains why there is no Umoja program at College of the Canyons, which is a white institution from top to bottom. So, yeah. Moving on then. So let's go back to the slides if we could. Liz, if you could share your slides again. Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you, Stephanie and Susan. There's so much we can do to help students see themselves, in our institutions, have developed relationships with us and with one another. Absolutely, positively. That's great example of that. And moving deeper into, let's say, traditional classroom setup, Mike Nava from Moorpark College is going to share with us equitable grading. I'm very excited about this. There has been a ton of work in the past, 3, 4, 5 years around equitable grading practices, or maybe increasing awareness of traditionally inequitable grading practices. So there's a really large or increasing body of literature out there for everyone to dive into. And I'm so grateful to Mike to share what he's doing here. So we'll turn it over to Mike from Moorpark. Thank you, Mike.
All right, what up, y'all? Can you hear me? Okay, good. That's very important when we give a presentation. I make sure people can hear you. Okay, so thank you for that response. Yeah, so I'm from Moorpark College. That's like Moorpark's in between where Meghan Markle lives and where Mickey Mouse lives. Okay, Santa Barbara, LA County, we're like right in the middle. That's where you find me. Okay, Moorpark College, we do have our own zoo. Okay, you can come to our campus and get a degree in exotic animal training. Okay, we got lions, tigers, bears, all that good stuff. Okay, in the morning you hear lion roaring. It's really neat. But thank you all for having me here today. Very thankful to be here. A lot of the instructors here I've seen at the CVC at one courses, so it's a kind of I know I'm in good company here. I know I'm in the right place. But I got a lot to do in a little bit of time. I want you to walk away with some easy things you can implement in your grade book for more equitable grading. But good thing I have the best students in the world, right? These professors here. So I know you're ready with your cup of coffee and all that good stuff, ready to roll. Okay, but let me go ahead and share my slides. I did bring slides here, I think here. I got a lot of them. I don't know if I'll get through all of them. Okay, it's not the goal. Okay, we'll get where we go. I'm gonna time myself here. Okay, but grading for equity. So this is something I've been working on with my colleagues for the past like 3 years. And you know, I'm gonna present this book here. You know, we want to get into, you know, talk about the common grading policy, 0 to 100, talk about zeros, okay? And we're gonna talk about our friend Priya a little bit, and then introduce some more equitable grading practices, okay? So as I present, I won't check the chat too much. I mean, maybe towards the end, you can ask questions. And of course, we're in this program together for a while. So if you have questions between now and then, you can always chime in and we can have a chat, okay? As far as where a lot of this good stuff comes from, it comes from this textbook here, Graded for Equity by Joe Feldman. Okay, we read this book about, 3 to 4 years ago as part of a professional development. And then we started sharing and implementing and sharing, and here we are, okay? But there's a lot of good things in this book. This book was written primarily for like high school, studies based off high school students. So we want to see how well it did at the community college level, and it's definitely changed the way I grade. But in there, they talk about 3 things: the pillars of grading, accurate grading, bias resistant grading, and motivational grading. Okay, and so, but we'll get into some examples there. Okay, a lot of topics in there. We'll just get into the tip of the iceberg. But to get started, I have some questions for you. Okay, just a questionnaire, no right or wrong, but we'll see what equitable grading says. Okay, so first thing, okay, in the categories comprising your grade, how much do you weight homework? Okay, A, less than 5%, B, 20, C, 40, D, over 50. So I guess you go ahead and type it into the chat, see what kind of responses, no right or wrong, but I'm gonna give you the equitable grading answer at the end, okay? So I'll just chime into the chat. I'll see our responses there, okay? Because we have the best students here, so they're gonna respond super fast because they're super fast, awesome students here, okay? All right, and now I will do I don't have the music, so I'll just do it like that. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So we got 40, 40, 40. Okay, good. Okay, no weighting at all. 30, 40, got 20. Okay, got a good distribution all over. I didn't see any over 50 yet, I don't think, but a lot of 40s, 20s, got a couple less than 5. We got one that said none. Oh, we got a 50 there, okay. Well, here we go. So equitable grading says, boom, a student's performance on homework should not be included in the grade. What? consequence. Okay, well, it says doing so means we're including unreliable data in the student's grade. We don't actually know who did the submitted homework or with what assistance, right? Additionally, including homework performance in a grade rewards students with privilege and punishes those without, okay? Finally, undermines the concept of homework as practice, okay? We'll maybe touch back on that, but we'll keep going to our next question, okay? Here we go, ready? Next question, but good job, thank you everyone for those replies. Next, which do you agree with? Okay, A, including students' performance with soft skills in the grade is just as important as including performance on academic content. So soft skills are like maybe their leadership qualities, maybe their organization of work that they present, things like that. B, grades are less accurate when behavior is included in the grade. C, it's important to give students a bump in a grade when it's clear they put in effort. We've all been there, right? Grades are about to be due. We're looking at the percentages. So-and-so has a, I don't know, 68%, 67%, but they're really cool, right? I mean, what do you do there? And then D, okay, we all agree with all of these above. Okay, so go ahead and go. A, B, C, or D. Okay. Yeah, it's okay to be conflicted. It's all good. It's no right or wrong right now. I'm going to show you what equitable gives us here. Okay, very good. We got D, A, all of these statements. D, B, D, yeah, so conflicted. Yeah, it's hard. No right or wrong. Okay, thank you all. Like, you prove it. The best students ever in the world, right here. Such an honor to be here. Okay, but here we go. Answer is, well, equitable grading. Answer is, grades are less accurate when behavior is included in the grade. Okay, when behavior includes soft skills, is included the grade, it leads to omnibus grading, which collapses disparate types of information about students and leads to grades that are inaccurate, okay, confusing, even misleading. Okay, judging a student's effort is highly subjective, right, and invites teachers' implicit biases. Ooh, here we go, right. Good job. Let's keep going. Okay, look, there's usually this talking a lot of questions, okay, that come, but let's just get to it, right? In your classroom, what happens if a student fails a summative assessment? Okay, A, we move forward without conversation. It's better for the student to start a new unit. B, the student has the option to retake the assessment or a version of the assessment, and I average the new score with the previous score. Or C, the student has the option to retake the assessment or a version of the assessment, and I replace the previous score with a new score. Okay, A, B, or C, go. Okay, lots of C's. All right, there you go. Any A's, B's, C, okay, C, D, none of the above. Okay, there we go. A or C, there we go. It's okay. You put what you want, no right or wrong. Okay, no right or wrong. Okay, yeah. Okay, good. So here's what equitable grading says. Okay, C, the student have the option to retake the assessment and I replace the previous score with the new score. Okay, learning isn't a race. We don't want to stop students from learning simply because we've given a summative assessment. Instead, students can learn through assessments. Okay, additionally, in terms of inputting the submitted assessment score, when a student improves her performance on a retake or redo on a summative assessment, their grade is more accurate when more recent scores replaces the earlier performance. If we average the two grades, we actually represent by deflating the student's true level of achievement. Okay, very good job. Best students. Okay, here we go. Next one. Which do you believe about your grading? A, there is a maximum number of students who should get an A. B, when a teacher assigns an F, he or she sends an important message about the seriousness of the class. C, the grade distribution in a group of students should generally follow a bell-shaped curve. D, grades are based on external standards. There's no minimum or maximum number of students who can qualify for a grade. All right, you're already answering. Thank you. Best students in the world, I'm telling you. Best ever. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Oh, D, we got D's. I think we had some other A, D, okay. All right. Equitable grading says, okay, grades are based on external standards. Okay, there's no minimum or maximum number of students who can qualify for a grade. Okay, when we limit the number of students who can receive a grade or believe that F's invest in other grades or a course with value, we are subscribing to the 20th century belief that intelligence was fixed and a distribution among population on a bell curve, that good old normal distribution for you statisticians out there, okay? And that only a limited number of students could succeed, okay? And that's an idea that's been entirely debunked, okay? Very good job, very good job. Okay, next one. Okay, here we go. What mathematics or scales do you use, or does your grading software use to calculate a student's performance over time? A, gradebook software averages a student's performance over time. That's usually what Canvas is doing in there. B, when a student earns a higher score in content than they earned earlier, I replace the lower earlier score with a higher score. C, I permanently use a 0 to 4 or A to F, so a scale 0 to 4 or A to F. D, I primarily use a scale of 0 to 100. So, 0 to 60 F, 0 to 59 F, and 90, 100 A, so on and so forth. And then E, we use A and C, B and C, G, A and D, H, B and D. Okay, let's get into combinatorics there, I guess. Okay, but go ahead. Let's see. Here we go. There we go. Very good, very good. Okay, getting some fast replies as expected. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, all right. Thank you all for those replies. I appreciate them very much. I appreciate the participation here. So boom, B and C, equitable grading says, when over time a student shows increased understanding of a standard, the grade is more accurate when the more current score replaces an earlier, lower and outdated score. The 0 to 100 score is disproportionately weighted toward failure, while 0 to 4 or ADF scale has grade bands, which are equally distributed and is more mathematically sound, okay? Now this will lead into the grading scale, because a lot of things we could talk about in here, like accepting late work, missing assignments and a grading scale. So what I'm gonna focus on is this grading scale for now, okay? This leads us into there, okay? But thank you all there, okay? There'll be some more questions, so be ready, okay? So in equitable grading, okay, we need grades to be accurate, bias resistant, and motivational, okay? So common grading policy, 0 to 100, okay? So 0 to 100 works like this. 1/3 of the grading is passing, 2/3 is fail. So off the get-go, you're in trouble, okay? You're in trouble, okay? And we could call it Pac-Man grading, I guess, for now, if you want a pie chart to visualize this, but we have over 60 ways to fail, I guess, right? Given this visual here, okay? And you have 30 points, range of points for passing, okay? And so really, if we break down this F scale, I mean, you go from 59 to 0, but what about all of that in between? I mean, shouldn't we, right? It's kind of weird. Everything goes by 10 and then all of a sudden, whoop, right? 60 for fail, So, how do we break that apart? And really, the structure of the 0-100 scale is kind of unique to what we see in schools. But for all these other types of exams that students may encounter, they don't use the 0 to 100 scale, okay? So here's one thing you can implement, okay? Let's talk about the 0 in the grade book, okay? And let's talk about the inaccuracy of it, okay? So in here, okay, you have 5 fish. Fish 1, fish 2, fish 3, fish 4, fish 5, not caught. How do you find the average weight of the 5 fish? Do you say, A, it's 2 pounds, meaning you give the 5th fish 0, or B, 2.5 pounds, meaning you just drop that 5th fish, you don't include it, or C, I can't give an average because I haven't caught and weighed all the fish because fish 5 is not there. So what would you do? A, B, or C? Ready, set, go. And I got about 2 minutes left in this presentation, but we'll get to where we need to be, I promise. Okay, see. All right, good job. So, yeah, I mean, in there, right? I mean, maybe a lot of us see, right? And I mean, but B, we have B as well. Okay, B, very good. But that's what each of these options are doing, okay? A is just removing. B is just, and in terms of assessments, right? Let's go back to our grade book now, right? We have a student with these assessments, 5th one is not submitted. Okay, what do we usually do? Oh, give a 0, you missed the due date. It says in my syllabus If you miss a due date, automatic 0, here you go, right? Or do we say, oh, I'm gonna be nice and I'm gonna drop a score, okay, meaning we eliminate it and we essentially replace it with an average, right? Or do we say, hold up, I need you to learn. In order to get to this class is by learning, so you got to take this fifth assessment if you want a grade for it, right? So in here, I mean, A is like, yeah, I mean, we assign 0 assessment to the calculation and we assume no knowledge, okay, 0 knowledge, okay? But I bet you they have some knowledge. I bet you they have a little bit, even though they missed, okay? But why, why did they miss, right? And then of course, B, exclude students missing assessment from calculation, right? Assume students, in that case, I mean, you're being nice, I guess, right? But also we're just replacing with the average score. So remember, the average is in the middle. Okay, there are scores that are better, there are scores that are worse, but we got to give the opportunity to make a score a little better, right? And then of course, C is, hey, well, you got to learn, right? We got to learn. I got to measure your knowledge, right? I got to focus on these assessments. I need to measure what you know. So let's wait to see what you have there. Okay. So let's look at Priya. Okay. Let's see what the grade book is doing. Okay. So Priya gets B, B, F. Let's just say, what should our overall grade be? Maybe a C or C minus, right? But in the grade book, we put 0% because in the syllabus, it says, if you missed, you get a 0. And that's what happens in the Canvas gradebook automatically. If it's missing, you give a 0, if you set it that way, okay? And if you take the average of those, 57%, Priya gets an F. What a bummer, right? And then let's say Priya like really learned from that mistake and she kept going, kept fighting and maintained B's in all her other assessments, okay? This one's just missing for some reason, who knows? Even after that, look at that, 68% D plus, okay? Or maybe our bias comes in, like Priya, she's really cool, we really like her, she's a fun student class, maybe we bump up to a C minus or something, right? But anyways, I mean, but you can't dig yourself out of that, 0, okay? So what's a more equitable way to grade? Okay, one thing you could do right now in your grade book, instead of automatically assigning 0s, assign a 50%. That's how easy it is, right? Or you could change the whole grading to 0 to 4 scale, okay? But because we need it to be accurate. And if you're in statistics, right? And if you're using the average to measure, because that's what Canvas is doing, it's taking an average of your grades. And so, but averages are susceptible, right? They're not robust against outliers. And so a majority of student scores are maybe between 70, 80, 90, but then you have the 0 all the way out. And we know that if you're using the average to measure their score, it's not accurate. Okay, that's backed by mathematics, right? That 0 is pulling their grade all the way down, right? So you're giving them a 0 maybe to teach them a lesson, maybe to motivate them, but it's hopeless though, as you see in Priya's case, because she even came back with B's, she's still failing, right? Why keep going, right? And they see this in Canvas Live, right? They see their grade, if Canvas gradebook, it gives their grade live, okay? So something that's more equitable is just keep your F scale 50 to 59, okay? Okay, where you don't have that outlier. It's still an F, you're not inflating grades, okay? You're not giving away grades, okay? But now they have hope. Okay, if they get a 50, there's still hope to continue and to do well in the class, okay? And so now if we have this embedded in our grade book, okay, we have 85, 85, 50. Now, if we're letting Canvas do its thing, okay, Priya's final grade is a C, okay, and she's passing, okay? And imagine those B's that come after. If she gets B's after that with that 50, she's actually almost at a B grade, okay? So not bad. Way to go, Priya. And there's other way, a scale, a 0 to 4 scale, okay, that we could use there as well. If you just have to give zeros, okay, you just really, really want to give zeros, because some people, when I present this, they just can't do that. But in here, you could do just a scale. I haven't quite figured out how to do that in Canvas yet, but I know it can do it, but I just haven't done that. But Canvas, to me, it's easy to adjust. But the same thing would happen if we use this weighting scale, okay? So in your gradebook, you could go right now, go to gradebook settings, go to late policies, and automatically add a 50% grade for anything missing, okay? And that's what it looked like in your gradebook. So that's one simple thing you could do to have more equitable grading, okay? But on that time, okay, and I don't want to go over, there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of other things we could talk about, okay? How to reduce remove your bias. But a lot of things that come out of this are like using this minimum grading scale, making your late policy explicit, like I will accept late work. These are the reasons, everything, you know, I won't penalize late work. And there's a few other things that come out, but I'm going to stop right there, okay? Because I don't want to take up any more time and we have more presenters coming up. But thank you for having me here. And if you got any questions or anything like that, let me know. Okay, but yes, all those questions we could talk about, all of those things. Yeah, provide opportunities to make up missing assignments. Yeah, we could. Yeah, I provide a lot of opportunities. So these assignments here, like they remain open to complete, right? They remain open to complete, and you'll never see someone like not submit everything all semester and then magically catch up, like abuse the system that way. It never happens. It never happens because you're following up with students and you say, hey, you got these missed assignments, you got to get them done, right? Anyways, I'm gonna stop there. But I'm looking at the chat here. But
wow, thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, thank you, boy. Stephanie and Mike, what a fantastic follow-up to Dr. Bush's presentation last time. If you remember Dr. Bush's presentation describing all of the structural inequities and inequalities in the California higher education plan, and he told us the system is working as it was designed, right? The greatest amount of resources going to the smallest number of institutions that serve the elite, and the smallest number of resources going to the greatest number of institutions that serve everyone else. And both of your presentations and discussions, holy smokes, illustrate how you are trying to dismantle or fight against the traditional structures of campuses and cultures on campuses that don't help students to see themselves in those campuses. And of course, goodness gracious, the incredible hierarchy built into our grading system. So just thank you so much. Perfect follow-up to Dr. Bush's presentation, and best of all, shared by our participants this year. I'm so excited. We really are almost out of time. I was going to solicit some more ideas from you all about open pedagogy and engaging students, involving students. I do want to ask if we have at least one student from Hartnell here. Do we have other students in the room with us? If we do, please feel free to unmute and say hello and give us a quick reaction to what you've heard today, if we have other students here from anywhere, but I think Hartnell.
Good afternoon. My name is Don Bolin. I'm actually a student from Hartnell College. I'm on my final semester. I want to say that Mike's presentation was pretty impressive. It gave me an idea of how these professors are thinking and grading our material. And I especially loved how he was going over giving students an extra chance when they've missed an assignment, because there was a time when I actually missed an assignment, and it wasn't because I was being lazy. It was because I read something incorrectly and misunderstood. And it was very deflating in the beginning. I felt like, should I just drop this class? I'm never going to be able to catch up. But fortunately for me, my professor had their system set up where I actually was able to make that grade up and pass the class with an A. And yeah, but I really appreciate how he broke that down. It gave me a greater understanding.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And you know, Mike did a fantastic job. And as I said, there's a growing body of research out there and a growing movement in higher education to change or to dismantle traditional grading practices. Any other students out there who want to share a comment or a reaction or a question? Feel free to unmute or drop something in the chat. I'm going to ask Kelly from Hartnell. Kelly, do you know if you have other students here?
No, we just had Dawn, who just spoke in Apollonia today, and she had to leave a little early. So,
well, thank you, Kelly, for inviting your students. That is just wonderful. I will encourage the rest of you, feel free to invite students to our remaining sessions this year, and continue to think broadly and openly about how to engage students both inside the classroom but also outside the classroom. And yeah, fantastic examples today of doing both. So thank you so much. Liz, I'm going to kick it back to you to put up the last couple of slides, if you wouldn't mind. I think we've got a couple of maybe one or two more reminders. Let's move on from this one. Let's move forward from that, Liz. And there we go. Feedback, please, on the session today. Most of all, kudos and thanks to our colleagues. You know, there's so much talent amongst all of us here today, amongst all of you. So we're just thrilled to be able to give voice to some of you. Yeah, and Liz, if you could put that link in the chat, that would be dynamite. And then I think the next slide is just thank you, and we are out of here. I know I will be able to hang out for a little while. Maybe Liz will be able to hang out for a little while if we want to stick around and chat about what we have heard today. But formally, we are going to conclude, and we're only 2 minutes past the hour, so that's great. Thank you, everybody. See you next time, and look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, everybody.